Alright guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today. For this one, we are going to do another little out and about video for you. So today, I'm in Industry City in Brooklyn in New York, and we're going to have a little look at this place behind me, which is Brooklyn Kura. Now, these guys are a little sake brewery, and this will be the very first time that I try non-Japanese brewed sake, in fact. So I'm really quite curious about this. This is one of Dave's recommendations, and he obviously is a big fan of wine, craft beer, different bourbons and stuff like this. And this is a place he thought I'd be really interested in with my family connections to Japan. So let's do this. We'll do as we always do. We'll go in, we'll have a little look around, we'll try some of the sakes and do a few tastings. So let's get stuck into this one. Brooklyn Kura, Industry City, Brooklyn, New York. Alright guys, so this is the exterior of Brooklyn Kura here. Craft sake, as you can see, the little sign just up there. And yeah, you can go in an escape room if you want to, but this is the little sign that you'll find just outside of this place. So I have to say, it's quite an interesting part of Brooklyn, this. You can see you've got a nice little garden here that you can walk through and chill, and lots of different things. Hometown Barbecue was where we were before, having some brisket and stuff like that, so that was quite nice as well. But yeah, when you come in, this place is really quite, it's quite nice, I have to say. It's got a kind of rustic, modern Japanese feel to it. There's Mr. Dave.
Fancy seeing you here.
Oh, fancy seeing you here as well, yeah. So we are 2 sakes in when I'm filming this little walkabout for you. But yeah, you can see the tanks and stuff just through there, but it's a lovely little bar, this one, I have to say. They've got that little neon light there, which which unfortunately isn't on at the moment. But yeah, I think it's time to do sake tasting again, isn't it, Davey?
Really excited for the Komodo. We have lots to say.
It will be good. It will be good. Let's get cracking then, guys. Alright guys, so yeah, they've got quite an interesting menu here at Brooklyn Kura. So you can see there's quite a few different sakes here, and you can get a little flight, which is what we're going to do in just a little minute. So you can see they have number 14, 50% Junmai Ginjo. Pretty interesting. The Blue Door at 70%, also a Junmai Ginjo. Greenwood Kimoto, cannot speak English today, that's also Junmai. Then the Omachi, so these are the 4 that we're going to have on the flight. Then there's the Occidental at 14%, which is a dry hopped one, which could be kind of interesting. And then the Summer Genshu, which is slightly stronger at 16.7% ABV. So yeah, quite a nice little selection here at Brooklyn Kura. So let's do this. Alright guys, so these are the 4 sakes that have been included in the flights that we've got. So over here we have number 14, then we have Blue Door, then we have the Greenwood Kimoto, and then the Omachi. So yeah, we'll work our way through these and see how we go on. It's been a long time since I filmed a sake review video, so we'll just need to see how we go with these. So could be fun. Alright guys, well, time for a look at our first sake then here at Brooklyn Kura. So the first one we're going to have a look at is simply called number 14. It comes in at 15% ABV, and this one is a Junmai Ginjo. So for those of you who don't know the kind of nomenclature or terminology when it comes to sake, if it's Junmai, it means that it's pure rice. If it's Ginjo, it means that the rice grain has been milled down to 60% of its original size. But yeah, I think this is the one we were recommended to start with. So you can see this one, if we look at the colour of it, it has a very slight sort of yellowy, greeny kind of tinge to it. Now remember, when it comes to sake, you don't have the same kind of variance, if you like, as you do with like craft beer and things like that. It's a much smaller kind of scope of colour and scope of flavour and things, but still really enjoyable. But yeah, for me, this is quite a kind of yellowy, greeny
yeah,
sake.
especially compared to some of the ones that we're about to try. You really see like more of a straw color.
Yeah, exactly.
Very desaturated.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, this one's very light, it's very light, kind of almost very slightly turquoisey as well. But yeah, when it comes to sake, your colour is going to be determined by the different kind of rice grain, and obviously that is dependent on the soil profile and where it's grown, the water profile, and all these kind of things. But yeah, we've got 100 millilitres of each sake to try, so that's about 50 millilitres each. Sake
He's a math wizard.
Should be fun, I know. Well, I'm actually a qualified maths teacher as well, but there we go. So yeah, we'll get this one out and see how we go. So it's been a wee while since I've filmed a sake review, but yeah, we'll need to see how we get on with this. So, as you can see, for this one, it's nice. Let's have a wee look at the aroma then, just see what we get. That's very sweet. Very sweet, very sweet.
It screams like honeydew out here. It's a very nice, like a melon on there.
Yeah, a lot of melon and gooseberry, definitely. For me, lots of melon and gooseberry on the fruity side of things. If we talk about the floral side, like in the top of the nose, you do get a little bit of that slightly bitey floral character. Yeah, can agree with that. It has got a wee touch of like citrus to it as well.
A little bit.
Again, that kind of mixes in with the kind of floral character that you have.
Maybe like somewhere between like a green apple at the end.
Oh yeah, no, I can see that. Yeah, it has got a lot of oily gooseberry for me as well. Though. Sweetness. There's a wee teeny touch of kind of. Yeah, there's a wee teeny touch of like an almost. Very, very slight honeycomb type thing for me. I do get a little bit of that.
It hits you on the end.
Yeah. But for me, that's a very sweet sake actually. This is, if I think about this compared to like Daiginjos and stuff, for me the sweetness level you get in this one is more kind of what I'm used to in terms of Daiginjos, to be honest with you. Where the mill, obviously with Daiginjo, the rice grain is milled down to about 50% of its original size, and then you've got more of the good stuff basically. Yeah. Anything else we need to say about the aroma of this one?
Nope. Look out for melon to start out with. Gooseberry and honey hit you in a more pointed way on the end of the aromatic, and let's go into the tasting. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's do it. Come by.
Come by.
Yeah. Oh, impact-wise, that's really sweet.
Yeah.
Really oily, sweet character coming out of this one. It has got a little bit of a kind of floral character to it as well. But what you'll find with this one is the sweetness obviously comes out in the middle of the palate. You get the lovely sweet, kind of oily rice grains. You do get a little teeny hint of like brown sugar in the dead centre of your palate, but it's very slightly toffee, very slightly honeycomb, but in the context of like an oily, sticky rice almost.
Yeah, if I compare this to a wine, this is going to be closer to like a Chenin Blanc, right? With the more floral whites, you kind of go either in the honeysuckle direction or like maybe a more jasmine direction. This is definitely in the honeysuckle, and you do get a lot of that sweetness on the mouth that was hinted at when you first smell it. But the melon, I find the melon largely goes away in favor of this kind of way bolder sweetness.
Yeah, no, I get a lot of like oily gooseberry out of it.
Yeah.
If I think about this in the beer context, it's very much like a Nelson Sauvin, Hallertau Blanc type character that comes out of this. It's lovely. I mean, it is lovely.
There's almost a bit of like a bitterness that hits you very on the very, very end. Not a bitterness, more of an acidity.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
I get a lot around the front curve of the palate. I get a lot of leafy, grassy character, a little bit floral on the edges of your palate. But yeah, the base in that middle and back third of your palate is all about the kind of smooth, sweet, like sticky rice, and you do get a bit of like a kind of slightly kind of butter candy, butterscotchy, brown sugary note out of it. But yeah, the fruity side of this one for me is all about the like gooseberry, slightly melony type notes. It's lovely. It really is very good.
I will say at 15%, this is on the medium strength end of sake, but the alcohol is present but not overpowering. So it's not like it hits you on the end. It doesn't bombard you at the beginning, but you always do get it on the sides of your palate, and it remains there through the end of the aftertaste.
I mean, that is the art of a good sake, is to have the alcohol covered and to just have it really smooth and really sweet, and you get that in abundance from this. So it's really nice. This is the first non-Japanese brewed sake that I've had, and I mean, I've tried, I think, about 25, 30 different sakes on the channel before. This one doesn't seem out of place amongst those at all, but yeah, it's really, really nice.
Yeah, so Brooklyn definitely brews their sake in more of a traditional style. They really do like to, they're not like, their taproom menu is not really all that experimental. They do like to be faithful to the typical, Junmai style. I'm a really big fan of this, and you can see, even if you zoom in on the glass, you do kind of get the traces of the oil, as you were talking about earlier. This is a very
yeah, it's nice. I mean, for me, mouthfeel wise, it has been a while since I've drank sake, but for me, this one, it's quite oily. It's quite kind of sweet. It's not the thickest of sakes I've had, but I mean, they have got ones that are stronger, so we'll need to see, relatively speaking. But still, really nice and really sweet. If I was to taste this blind, the level of sweetness you have in here makes me think more Daiginjo, maybe very slightly Nigori level. But yeah, it's nice, and that's the main thing. Sake is not as well known across the world as like craft beer, like I normally review, or wine, like Dave enjoys. But this is still lovely. It's really cool to do something a little bit different there.
Big fan.
But yeah, it covers its alcohol very well, lovely and slick and smooth. I get more of the floral. You do get a little bit of like a floral bitterness out of this beer, just at the very extremities of your tongue into the aftertaste. But yeah, mainly a nice big oily sweet sake. This I'm really happy with that.
Yeah, this is a staple here at Industry City, which is a giant kind of warehouse community space complex here at the right near the Brooklyn Naval Yards. It's got a lot of outdoor space. We'll show you around later, and it's got some great restaurants, hometown barbecues around here. We have an entire Japanese market, a lot of great kind of multicultural restaurant places, and quite a lot of places to have a drink too. So definitely, if you're in Brooklyn, near Red Hook, near the bridge, come out to Industry City. It's a great place to be, and Brooklyn Kura will be here for a very long time, I suspect.
Oh yeah, no, it's good quality stuff. Like, it is very good quality stuff. Let's leave it at that for this one. This was the number 14, a 15% Junmai Ginjo, and yeah, really enjoyable. Let's leave it there. Catch you guys in a second with something else. Alright guys, well, let's have a little look at the snacks menu here at Brooklyn Kura. So yeah, they have some mixed nuts, different cheeses, 2 meats, the meat and cheese, the oishi berry, which sounds kind of interesting. If you come down to other drinks, they've got Orion lager from Okinawa, which I drank many a time when I was there. A few different New York wines inside, or 2 rooftop reds Frontenac Gris Rose from 2022. Rosé, I should say, cannot speak English today. Rooftop Reds Cabernet Franc Reserve 2020, and then the Oishi Cider, which is a collaboration actually with these guys. And they've also got the Sichuan Spritz cocktail too. So yeah, quite an interesting array of different things here on the snacks menu. So yeah, interesting stuff. Let's leave it at that for this little segment. Alright guys, well, time for tasting number 2 then here at Brooklyn Kura. So yeah, the next one we're going to have a little look at is this guy, which is Blue Door. Once again, it's Junmai Ginjo, so pure rice sake with a grain milled down to 60% of its original size. You can see this one, this has a little bit more of an intense, kind of turquoisey, yellowy hue to it, which is kind of interesting. As we said earlier, the colour of the sake really depends on the particular grain that you're using. So this one, I'd say, is a little bit more intense than the last one we had. But at 17% ABV, it kind of makes sense, because sake, when you brew it, comes out at around 19-20%, and then usually it's diluted down a little bit. But yeah, I don't know if there's much else we really need to say about the appearance of this one. So yeah, we've got 100 millilitres of this again. I'll try and be more careful this time, because I wasn't very even in my pour last time. I think the rest is yours. There you go. There we are, that's a bit better, eh? So, yeah. So, will we have a wee look at the aroma then? Sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's actually quite similar, but it's just a little bit more intense on the grassy zestiness and the sweetness and floral notes for me.
I'm getting a banana, but like maybe even closer to like a sweet plantain from this.
I do get a little bit, like, it's like a candied banana for me, almost. I still get gooseberry. And I still get a little bit, I get a bit of fresh green apple out of this one, actually.
Yeah.
There is definitely more of a, this sake is very similar to the last one, but it's just that little bit more intense, for sure.
And it'll hit you. This is 17% alcohol as opposed to 15, which is the one we just tried.
And it's the same style as well. It's
yeah,
the same style.
all traditional Junmai style.
I think what we're going to find from this one is it's a little bit thicker and more concentrated in the flavour. That's probably what we're more. That tends to be what happens with sake as you go up the alcohol scale. You're going to get like a more of a thick, kind of concentrated flavour. But again, for me, you get that sweet sort of sticky rice in the middle of your nose. It does have a very little hint of, like, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? It does have a wee tiny bit of like butterscotch, kind of caramel wafery type note to it. But then, yeah, really sweet rice, lots of gooseberry for me, lots of, I do see melon as well in this, but then, yeah, the citrusy characters, the sort of zestiness from the grass is a lot more intense, I would say. It's like got a really wet, leafy, grassy note, but the floral note as well has a little bit more bite to it. I think that's fair to say. Yeah. Do you get any earthiness from this one? I get a wee bit of earthiness behind the floral bite, actually.
I don't know. For a minute, maybe I got like a little bit of like a wild strawberry, like something reminiscent of a berry, but like just very, very light and subtle. It's there in the overtones. It's very not pronounced. The banana and the sort of grassiness and the gooseberry are really the main notes on the aromatic that I would call out.
That's it. I mean, I think we can agree on this one. Like these, it's the same style. It is quite similar to what we had in the last one from the number 14, but it's just a little bit more punchy almost, isn't it? Yeah, I think that's a fair statement. Anything else?
Can't buy.
No, I think we can get stuck into that. So, Blue Door, 17% Junmai Ginjo, Slange. Oh yeah.
It's definitely stronger.
Yeah, very much like...
it is very wet.
If we talk about impact flavour, because one of the things you should talk about with sake is the impact. This one definitely has a little bit more of like a floral, citrusy bite to it in the beginning. That's definitely fair to say.
I'm getting the alcohol. I am getting a honeysuckle now on the mouth. It's very, very pronounced. Yeah.
I mean, for me, the bite comes just behind that front tip of the tongue, which is really nice.
The alcohol's hitting the side of my palate after the initial impact. It's kind of waving over, which is nice.
When you just let it sit on the side of your tongue as well, like it's quite...
it's the acidity.
It does have a really... I actually think it's very sweet. You get a really kind of intense, kind of sweet rice character out of this one. I mean, sake is essentially like a really strong rice beer. Like you could argue it's a rice wine, but it ferments in the same way as beer. It's lovely. I mean, as I say, it's the flavour profile for me, apart from the impact and the intensity of flavour, is quite similar to what we had from number 14, but it's the same style, so you would expect that. So yeah, middle of your palate, you've got the sweet oily rice in the base. You get a little circle in the middle of your palate where there's a little touch of like a very slightly brown sugary note, like a honeycomb, butterscotchy kind of character, and that gets it's at its most intense in the dead centre of your palate, and of course that will be the alcohol. But as you move out toward the edges of your palate, you get more and more kind of floral character out of this one. It does have a little bit of floral bite to it, this particular sake. For me as well, it's quite unusual to drink sake out of a wine glass, because I usually, in Japan, you drink it out of little metal cups, of course. But yeah, this beer for me, this sake for me has more, you get more and more floral character out of this one into the aftertaste, and it gets more and more like spicy in that regard as well.
Yeah, I think the alcohol has something to do with that. On its way, the alcohol hits me really in the back of the palate the hardest toward the end.
Yeah, it does have a wee bit of bite at the very in the back, like the back third of your palate.
Yeah.
You can see that. Round the front curve of your tongue, for me, it's a bit more grassy and kind of zesty for sure.
Right.
And the fruits, as I said, are For me, this one almost has like a very slightly peachy sharpness to it. But then into the aftertaste, you get more of like a really, you get a gooseberry again and a fresh green apple. Fresh green apple's right behind the front tip of the tongue, but the juicy gooseberry's behind that. But I do get like a little bit of a sharper, like peachy citrus or something like that.
Yeah.
For sure.
So in wine, stone fruit is common among a lot of white wines. So your peaches, your nectarines, and that's a combination of sweetness and acidity. So if that's hitting you, probably in the front of your palate, that's what that is.
Yeah, no, I'm getting it like at the back of the front of your palate. Then as you come further forward, more like oily gooseberry. The gooseberry is very sweet in this one, and then just behind the very front tip of the tongue, it's got a little bit more of that intense, like grassy sort of citrusy type thing. That's what's coming out for me. Mouthfeel then, this one is definitely a little bit, you can feel this is a bit thicker than the number 14 for sure. It has got a lovely little bit of oily slickness. Yeah, it has got a little bit of that oily kind of slickness to it as well. And it does really just feel like the big brother of the number 14, doesn't it?
Yeah, for me, it's like getting hit with a water balloon, right? It's got that giant wet impact at first, and then it very quickly starts to kind of dissolve across the rest of your palate, and that's when the alcohol becomes more pronounced.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's nice.
But yeah, mouthfeel-wise, not the thickest of sakes that I've come across, but it's thicker than the number 14 was. This is all relative, of course. Again, not had sake in quite a wee while, but quite a thick, a kind of medium thickness, oily and slick sake for me. A bit more florally pronounced, a little bit more bitterness into the aftertaste too, and then yeah, the fruitiness is a bit more intense and sharp in this. I would say
for sure.
I think that's a nice place to round off this one. Any last thoughts?
No, it's delicious. We love Brooklyn Kura. We're happy to be here, and 2 out of 4 down. Let's see how the rest of them go.
Yeah, exactly. So this was the Blue Door 17% Junmai Ginjo. Catch you guys in a second with the next one. So yeah, guys, as you'll find in the craft beer breweries, they do actually have a little bit of merchandise here. So you can get a Brooklyn Kura black t-shirt, or you can get a nice kind of grey sort of sweatshirt, I guess you would say. So yeah, a little bit of merchandise here. Interesting. Alright guys, well, time for our third and penultimate sake tasting then here at Brooklyn Kura. So the next one is Greenwood Kimoto. It comes in at 17.4% ABV, and this one is a Junmai Nama. So Junmai again, pure rice sake. We didn't mention that earlier actually. The opposite of Junmai, if we can call it that, is Honjozo, where you add a little bit of distilled alcohol into the sake. So Junmai is pure rice. But yeah, the Nama means basically unpasteurized. They've looked that up before this video because I couldn't remember. But yeah, this one then, as you can see, it's kind of similar in colour to the last one. I don't think this one is much different to the Blue Door. The colour is pretty much exactly the same. It's got a little bit of that kind of turquoisey, yellowy tint to it. Yeah, I really don't think we need to say too much more about the appearance of this one, to be honest with you.
So I'll go over the name real quick. So again, this sake is called Greenwood Kimoto. So there's 2 words there. Greenwood, number 1. Greenwood Cemetery is a local cemetery in Brooklyn, incredibly large, historic cemetery. Among the people buried there are Colonel Henry Rutgers, the namesake of Rutgers University in New Jersey,
he went,
where I went.
Why he's mentioning it, yeah.
And also Aaron Burr, the guy who shot Alexander Hamilton, is buried in Greenwood Cemetery.
All right.
So,
is he one of the presidents?
No. Oh, Hamilton?
Yeah.
No, he was the first treasurer.
All right, okay,
of the United States.
There we go.
So the second word, Kimoto, is a very old school style of sake making. So the word Kimoto means that it is left without the addition of lactic acid, lactobacillus, right? So what happens is the vat is left for naturally occurring lactic bacteria to gather and impact the production itself without artificially being added. Now, something close to that in winemaking, you have an old style of making sparkling dry Riesling called Pétillant Naturel, which is very famous style, old school style of winemaking, particularly in France. This is in the same spiritual vein, an attempt to really kind of be faithful to the old school style of sake making. So Kimoto, without the addition of additional lactic acid.
Yeah. From my knowledge of Japan, I mean, the very famous regions like Hyogo Prefecture, Kyoto kind of area, is very well known for its sake. Tohoku as well, up in the north, and Hokkaido. These are the big sake regions. So probably this technique, the Kimoto technique, would be from one of these regions, if you like. As I say, I'm by no means a sake expert. I like it, teaching myself as I go. That's how it is.
Amen to that.
I think we're both the same, aren't we, with this?
Oh no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Just happy to be along for the ride.
Yeah. No, I do look forward to doing more sake videos on the channel. See how this goes. I think he actually gave us 150 milliliters of this one, to be honest.
There you go. Challenge accepted.
Yeah. A little bit more for you, I think.
Oh, thank you. You're very kind.
Yeah. There you go.
Right on.
Yeah, we'll get rid of that. So, aroma then.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
To me, this one's a lot more, this is even more like wet and leafy and grassy.
Yeah. I'm getting bubblegum, but I'm also getting like a very light kind of apple bit to it, like one of the lighter green apples.
I get a lot of like melon and watermelon out of this one.
I can see the watermelon for sure.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
It is, I mean, in profile, it's Junmai, so it's very, this is the thing you have to remember with sake is, compared with craft beer, it's a much smaller scope of flavour and aroma. This is always the thing. But for me, this one's like much wetter, it's much more leafy. It's not as sweet in terms of the kind of slightly brown sugary thing you get, definitely not.
And as opposed to the number 14, which we tried first, which has more of that honeydew in the initial aromatic, I'm getting the honeydew more on the end here. That's sort of an afterthought.
Yeah, because I'm guessing the rice that they're using in this one will be produced on the same farm in Japan or something like that. It will very likely be of the same producer. And of the same, potentially of the same variety, because different producers will produce a few different varieties, and just with the way that this sake comes across, I think it is the same variety of rice grain. But for me, this one, the grassiness is a little bit wetter and more leafy. If you actually go like deep, if you put your nose basically right in the glass and do it deeply, you really get more. You get quite a bit of an intense floral zip to it, and a bit more of a grassy zestiness. But like I say, the sweetness of the rice isn't quite as intense for me. It's got a little bit less. The booziness, I think, is a bit better hidden, a bit more hidden. And then, you've also got just a little bit of you do also have that little bit of fruity character of this one. For me, watermelon and a bit of melon. Gooseberry's definitely there. You always tend to get a bit of gooseberry with sake, but not as much of that as that fresh green apple, I don't think, as before. Right. Anything else?
No. I think that pretty much covers it.
I think that's it. Crack on.
Kanpai.
So, Kanpai, Greenwood Kimoto. Oh, that's even that. It's funny because that's sweeter on the impact.
That's massive.
That's a lot sweeter on the impact than the other ones were. So,
Now the bubblegum really comes through. That is really like chewing one of those like old school bricks of double or like bubblicious.
Watermelon Hubba Bubba.
Yeah.
There's Hubba Bubba thing in America.
I mean, I haven't seen it in a while, but I also haven't looked consciously for a very long time. When I was a kid, it was. I think you're spot on with the, I think watermelon and bubblegum are really the two biggest notes here that I can really take with me.
Yeah. I mean, as I say, you always get a bit of gooseberry. So for me, in the middle of the palate, of course, the base is the kind of sweet rice. You always get that. The edges of your palate are a little bit floral. This one, I actually find this one less floral than the last one we had.
For sure.
This is a little bit
sweeter.
It's a little bit smoother, I would say, a little bit more oily. You do get a little touch of like floral spice on the front corners of your tongue, but round the front curve of your palate, it's a bit lighter and more leafy and wet grassy. I think that's fair to say.
I am noticing the acidity in wine reviewing. We also refer to acidity as tongue sweat, right? So if your tongue is sweating, it means that the wine is acidic. And the acidity here which is welcome, by the way, it's not a problem, but it's sticking with me for a very, very long time. It's very prolonged, which I think is nice.
It's interesting for me because when I think about this from the sort of sour beer perspective, it gives you this sort of waxy character on the top of your tongue. So I think that's what you're referring to with the kind of tongue sweat, isn't it? So yeah, for me, I can definitely see that. For me, it's like a sort of waxy sweet rice type thing that I get. On top of that, for sure, there's a little circle there again where you do have a little bit of a more intense, like even sweeter rice, which covers the booze, and you do have a little bit of bite in that middle part of your palate. Yeah. I think this one doesn't cover its alcohol as well as the Blue Door did. I think it has got a bit more of an alcohol bite to it, and the floral character is a wee bit more. The floral character is a bit more hidden, but it has a bit of spiciness there. But the grassiness, as you go into the aftertaste with this one, round the front curve of the tongue, more zesty grassiness. I think that's fair for me.
So wet, strong, pronounced aftertaste, lingers for quite a long time. Like James said, the gooseberry and the grass are kind of staples of just what sake tastes like. We're trying to pick apart those other elements are really where we find things get interesting. Yeah,
sake is all about the subtleties. And I can imagine wine is the same, because obviously with beer...
It depends on the wine.
Oh yeah, no, I mean with wine it's about different grape varieties, sake is about different rice varieties and so on. Beer, it's different styles, you know. I think the flavour scope of beer is a lot bigger than wine or sake. I think that's fair to say. But yeah, for me, this is. I mean, I enjoy all of them. They are. Sake is a very nice and kind of very underappreciated drink for me. I don't know what exactly to call it. But yeah.
No, and just like wine, right? This is. Beer doesn't have as much of this because so many of the ingredients are shipped across the world and imported and whatever. But you have a sense of terroir, right? Terroir, French, meaning a sense of place, right? And just as wine. Just as grape varietals are impacted by the quality of the soil, the climate, and things like that. And really, winemaking is about expressing the grape and nothing but. The same goes for rice in this scenario. I mean, really, the quality of the soil and the climate and the elevation, things like that, really do impact the ultimate flavor of the rice. How it's washed, things like that. So.
Yeah. I mean, we see this in beer as well. I've spoken to this about you before in terms of the flavours of German Crystal versus American Tudor malt. So you do have this similar kind of thing. That kind of just highlights again the point that Dave's making. Fruity side of the sake then, I keep wanting to say beer, fruity side of the beer. No, fruity side of the sake. As we said, lots of watermelon, lots of gooseberry. I get a very slight like lemony, limey citrus behind the front tip of the tongue. Anything else you would add to that?
No, if there is a lime, it's more like a lemon meringue or key lime pie. Like it's definitely more of like a sweetness and not like the citric pure acidity. You're getting that sort of dessert-like citrus.
For me, it's kind of blending in with the bite, the floral and the boozy bite out of this. But yeah, mouthfeel-wise,
strong. 17.4. I mean, you're talking about something that hits you right away and sticks around.
I think this is the thickest mouthfeel we've had so far.
I would agree with that.
I think it's the thickest mouthfeel we've had. A bit slicker, a bit more oily. I get a little bit more bitterness out of this one into the aftertaste. It does have a little bit more bite to it because of the alcohol, but at the same time, the sweetness feels a bit more, and the fruitiness feels a bit more intense too. So yeah, it's a lovely sake that. Certainly enjoyed all of these. I certainly have enjoyed all of these. And it's interesting to try such similar styles in sequence as well. Because normally if I went to a sake bar in Japan, I'd try a Junmai, a Honjozo, a Nigori, a Senshu, all of these kind of things. I'd try different styles, but these guys seem to stick to the Junmai side of things.
Which is great for me, because I'm not a Nigori fan. They give me the most vicious hangovers, so I just tend to avoid them force of habit. I'm glad to be in a place that's almost exclusively Junmai.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right, well I think that's everything we need to say about the Greenwood Kimoto. This one was 17.4%. Again, this was a Junmai Nama, so a pure rice, unpasteurized sake. And then we've got one more to go, so catch you guys in a little second. Cheers. Alright guys, so yeah, we're here actually in the back of the brewery. So this little area up here is the rice washing station, which is kind of interesting. You can see the bags of rice ready to go here. So quite a labour intensive process actually to sit and wash these things in the little tanks. But yeah, that's the first stage. So what happens after that is they would go here. So we've got Hadley, who's the manager here, and Dave, they're sitting chatting when I'm doing my little walk around. Hello. Hello. So yeah, when after they've washed all the rice, they bring it through here, and then this is basically the turning room, and this can be a really intensive process. You know, it gets really intensive, lots of steam and things like that. They're sitting manually turning over the rice, chemical reactions going on. You'll get basically a spa treatment when you do this. But then, yeah, you'll come back through here. You've got all your tanks and things. So yeah, you've got your 3 runs of that, and then over here you have your accordion press, where you will get the very, very raw, unfiltered, unpasteurised sake. And it's best actually to drink this in the tap room straight away. So I think we might need to do that before we leave, because you're not going to find this kind of sake anywhere else. But apparently very soon they're going to move to a new facility which is just up in a building up that way, about 10 times the size, so they're going to be producing even more of this kind of stuff. But yeah, really cool to have a little look at a kind of modern American sake brewery firsthand. So yeah, you can see here, that is just through there, the bar where we were just doing our stuff. So there you go. Alright guys, so we're just back from a lovely little brewery tour with Hadley, so a big thank you to her for that. Yeah, that was pretty awesome.
That was fun.
And yeah, we're going to try our last sake here at Brooklyn Kura. So the last one we have is the Omachi. This is another Junmai Nama, so yeah, rice milled down to 60% of the grain, Nama unpasteurised, 50%. So I'm curious to see how this one varies. But I have to say, this one has a little bit more of an intense colour to it than the others.
Definitely more saturated, yeah.
Yeah, definitely a little bit more of that kind of, it's quite a straw colour, this, quite a straw yellowy colour rather than the kind of turquoisey sort of thing we'd seen before. Yeah, anything else we really need to say about the appearance of that? We've been over this quite a few times in this video. So
it's yellow.
It is yellow.
It's yellow.
Yeah, so there we go.
Right.
I think that's a bit even, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Oh, I got a little friend.
There you go.
I got a little friend. He likes the sake.
Tastes like finger.
Tastes like finger. Yeah. So there we go. All right, let's have a look at this then. That's a lot sweeter and a lot more round, I think.
You're getting like big yellow apple on this, like specifically like a golden delicious.
That's interesting, yeah.
You're getting that straw again, which is really nice.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lovely big, just like oily, sweet.
Like a, not like honeycomb, but more like clover honey almost.
I mean, for me, it's, I can exactly say, yeah, there is a honey element to this one. The brown sugars are a little bit more prominent in this.
Agreed.
I do get a lot more. I do get a lot more just oiliness out of this sake. Not so much floral character, not as much grassiness as the other ones.
Right.
The oily sweet rice thing is a lot more intense, which is interesting because this is only 15% ABV. But yeah, the oily rice is really nice and light. But yeah, quite a lot of, I do get a bit more of a butterscotchy, honeycomby type thing out of this for sure.
It's nice.
It's lovely, yeah. But a lot more wet leafy grassiness. The fruity side of things for me is going back to the more gooseberry side of the spectrum. I think
you love your gooseberries.
No, but I think this one is. I think in fairness, I think it is a lot more gooseberry and gooseberry, maybe a bit of oily melon as well.
Yeah, I'm getting more melon than anything.
Melon and gooseberry, not so much watermelon this time.
Right.
No.
Right. Closer to like a cantaloupe, if anything.
Yeah, I do get a little bit like fresh green apple at the very front of the nose, but otherwise, yeah.
Yeah. Kanpai.
Yeah, I think that's it. Plunge it, kanpai.
Wow.
Oh, that's like silky smooth, isn't it?
Yeah. The kind of I think I'm landing on candied apple for like the big flavor here in my opinion. Definitely like a caramel apple. It's not sweet though.
Yeah, you get more and more. You do get a little. Again, you can feel the slightly floral character just creeping its way out of this one. The further into the aftertaste that you go.
I'm also getting like toward the end. I am getting like a dark wood bit from it.
Oh yeah, further back on the palate.
Yeah. Which is a pleasant surprise. I wasn't expecting that.
This one has got a wee bit. Well, I'd say it's earthy as well. You do get like on the back corners of your palate. You do definitely get that little touch of earthiness in there, and then the woody character that Dave's talking about. I definitely see that. I think into this is one of the ones where the transition is quite interesting because you just don't get quite as much. As I say, you don't get quite as much sweetness out of this one. You do get you get a more dry, woody, earthy, floral type thing out of this.
Yeah, I would say what makes this interesting is it smells a lot sweeter than it tastes. For sure.
Yeah, that's really interesting, definitely.
But it is kind of funky. It is kind of funky.
Yeah, I mean, it's really nice actually how it just pieces together.
Yeah.
For me, definitely more floral, aromatic. You do get a little bit more spiciness on the front corners of your palate the further into the aftertaste you go. It's got quite a wet, leafy grassiness again, but you get quite a wee bit of zestiness out of this one too.
I'm almost getting like I don't think this is reliable, but I got a hint of like a banana split for a second.
I don't really get that.
Yeah.
I don't get that so much in this
Flashed
one.
across my brain, but
Yeah.
The fun part about this being the fourth taste and it all being subjective is at some point you just make shit up and maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong.
I think the main takeaway from this one compared to others is it's definitely smoother and more sort of silky in its mouthfeel. I think it builds up more of a kind of bite into the aftertaste. It doesn't cover its alcohol as well as some of the others did.
Yeah, but this is definitely, in my opinion, the driest that we've had so far in terms of its flavor.
That's fair. That is definitely fair.
Dry, woody, kind of like
more earthy as well.
The caramel without the sweetness.
Definitely.
Yeah, and like a bit of apple in there for sure.
Yeah.
So
I think this is quite interesting. I mean, for me, fruity side of it, you have got a bit more of that floral, citrusy kind of thing in the back of the front third of your palate. Gooseberry again, a little bit of the melon. I think the melon does become more pronounced the further into the aftertaste.
Yeah.
A little touch of a limey kind of character behind the front tip of the tongue.
we have noticed melon as a through line in all these sakis that we've tried. However,
they're all Junmai as well, that's the thing.
Yeah, whereas the first one that we tried, the number 14, was like a honeydew, and then by the time we got to the Blue Door and the Greenwood, we were talking more about watermelon. This is way more of like a cantaloupe than anything. From where I'm seeing it, it's definitely a darker melon.
This one's got more earthy and woody notes, like you said, and you get more and more floral kind of character evolving out of this one the more that you drink of it too. I think that's definitely fair to say. Yeah. So yeah, mouthfeel side of things then to round off. I think for me this one is a little bit. It's got a lovely almost rice pudding type note into the taste as well.
Yes.
You have got that rice pudding.
And the finish, I will say, is shorter than the last one that we tried. The Greenwood Komodo definitely, I think, has the longest, most pronounced finish of all this. This one tends to cut at like 4 or 5 seconds in. It doesn't linger strong for that long.
Yeah, that's interesting though, for sure, definitely. But yeah, it has this like sweet rice pudding character into the aftertaste, which is really interesting. So I think that's maybe what you were picking up with the kind of banana, earlier, maybe.
You're probably right.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, but yeah, mouthfeel wise for me, this one feels a little bit lighter in a sense, but it's also a little bit more silky and smooth. I'd say it's kind of mid-range, not too thick, not too light. Bit, as we said, a bit drier, a bit more bitter as well. Yeah, but you get sweetness into the aftertaste as well as that kind of floral bitterness. It's really interesting.
To relate it to beer, it's almost as if you took the sweetness out of a barley wine. It has a similar mouthfeel. Not a similar flavor, but a similar mouthfeel.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That is interesting. Yeah, is that everything we need to say about this one?
I think so.
I think so, yeah. So yeah, this one was our fourth and final. This is the Omachi 15% ABV, a Junmai Nama, pure rice, unpasteurized. That's that. That's the end of our 4 tastings here at Brooklyn Kura. So we'll do as we always do. I'll go outside, I'll give you my final thoughts, and I'll catch you guys in just a second. Slide you just now. Alright guys, well that is our time over then here at Brooklyn Kura in Brooklyn in New York. So yeah, we had a really nice 2 hours or so.
Yeah, it was a great time. All the staff was super awesome, and you'll find when you come here that the sake is made in a very traditional style. They're very faithful to the way it's supposed to be made. Minimal, if at all, experimentation. They're just really good at the bare bones.
They're going for authenticity.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's
I think
right.
that's the way to put it. So we paid $30 each for our little tasting. I don't know if that's, I mean, compared to Japan, it is a little bit expensive.
But compared to Brooklyn, it's not that expensive.
Yeah, that's the thing, yeah. Compared to your sake breweries in Japan, you will find it a little bit expensive, but New York prices, yeah, it's about alright. So $30 is somewhere in the region of like maybe 27 euros, something like that. You're obviously going to give about 15-20% tip, something like that. Yeah, so what's that, about £25 sterling? So not bad for a couple of hours trying something that's quite premium and artisanal, I would say. So yeah, we had a nice time, and we got the little tour from Hadley as well. She was great, and Shin, the Japanese dude, he was really nice too. So yeah, anything else we should say?
Come to Industry City. It's a great place. Lots of bars, lots of food, lots of shops, and I love hanging out here. This is like my 5th or 6th time here, so I always make it a point to come all the way from New Jersey to come here.
Alright, fair enough. I think that's that. So catch you guys on the next one. I'll put the link to Brooklyn Kura in the description below. Check them out. Check out my social media, and I'll try and put something for Dave as well if you want to follow him doing his drone stuff and all of that. Catch you guys in the next one. A little random out and about video for you here. I didn't think I was going to do a sake brewery today, but there you go.
Happy surprises. Later.
Cheers.